welcome to my channel. My name is Misty, and today we're going to be going over the books I read in January. Now, yes, this is a homeschool channel, but I feel like it's part of being a growing and ever-evolving human, as well as teaching your little ones. You should always be educating yourself as well, and that includes reading. I mean, let's be real, reading's the #1 way to learn, so. And before we get into the books that I read this month, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below if you're brand new. That way you can stay up to date with all the homeschooling videos on this channel. And the like button lets me know that you enjoy this type of content, so I know you want more book-related videos in the future. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first, I always start off a new year saying that I'm going to read like X amount of books, and somewhere along the line, I always trickle off. This year is the year we're going to do it. I'm going to read at least 24 books this year. Okay, so let's start with the very first book that I read this year, and that would be The Gifts of Imperfection. This is not a book I would typically pick up for myself, to be quite honest. I don't know why, but this is a book that I know I would just generally pass. I would read the title and pass along. And I only read it because it was part of our Womanhood Collective book reading that we do. So for the month of January, Tori from Oglesby, Ohana, her membership, we had to read a book, and that was this book, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And I'd like to say I was actually surprised, and I would be willing to read more from her in the future, even though in general I would judge this book by its cover and move along without Tori being the one to push to read it. So Brene Brown is actually an expert in shame, which is really interesting. I didn't know that somebody could have a career built around studying that. But that is a thing, and I find that really interesting, and that's part of why I'm willing to read more from her, because this is just an area that I wasn't even aware someone could be an expert in and could give this type of information in books regarding it. Let's talk a little bit about why I wouldn't generally pick this up. I do believe in continuing groundwork that you've done for yourself, but based on the title, this is something I'd pass up because I went through a good 2-year stretch of really exploring this topic for myself. And that would be why I would just pass it up, because I spent a good solid 2 years on it, and I don't think I'm ready to visit it even deeper, because there are other things about myself I want to learn as well. That might sound strange, but that's the truth. Like, I just feel like I needed a break from this topic. So this is a book I would pass up. And because it says, let go of, I got the book description here. It says, let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. Also, side note, I don't have physical books in front of me because I read electronically through Kindle. I don't like having the house cluttered with more books other than the kids' books. I'll clutter the house with kids' books, but for me, I do it electronically unless it's not offered electronically. Just letting you know. But yeah, so let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are, your guide to a wholehearted life. Like I said, I went through 2 years of this. After my mother passed, I went through a whole self-exploration on this topic specifically, and trying to figure out really who I am, my place in the world, and what makes me happy, and nixing the rest of it, other people's opinions or maybe standards that are expected of me, things like that. So this title alone would be something I wouldn't read. And it was a great book. It really was. I think that if you're new to this topic of exploring yourself and your inner thoughts and expressing the way you want to live your life, those kind of things, this book would be really, really good for you. Even though for me it wasn't like the #1 book of the year, it's still a really great read. I did get really great things out of the book, but at the same time, the book doesn't go deep enough for me. Like I said, I've done a lot of groundwork in this area, so there was a lot left to be desired. However, she does give prompts in the book to have you search deeper on your own, and I think that's great, and there's a lot I could do with that. But in general, it leaves a lot to be desired if you've already went pretty deep on the subject for yourself personally. And that would be the only reason that I rated it on Goodreads as a 4 out of 5. There was just a lot left to be desired of it. Also, side note, if you're not on Goodreads, you should be. We'll talk about Goodreads at the end. I would say the #1 thing I got out of this book was something I did not expect to get out of it. And that is, she says that perfectionism is kind of like a result or a side effect of shame. And I've never thought of it that way. I myself can be a perfectionist, and when life gets really chaotic and I feel like I can't control things, I become a perfectionist. I spiral into perfectionism. That's something I just know about myself, and I've been okay with that, and I work through it as it goes. But I never stopped and thought of that aspect. Like, is there shame maybe in the back of my mind that I'm not considering that's pushing me to be such a perfectionist? I thought that was a really great point she made, and I'm willing to explore that more. That's probably the thing I will explore the most from this book. But there is a lot to be offered from this book, especially, like I said, if this is a topic that's new to you, or if you feel like you're often stuck in life and there's things you want to do or desire to do, but there's a lot holding you back, this would be a great book for you. And that's what I'll say about that. Hopefully I'm making sense. None of this is scripted. I'm just kind of generally talking about the books. All right, so the next one I have to look down at the title because it's a long title. The OT Playbook is the main title, but it is the OT Playbook: exploratory play, manipulative play, block and construction play, pretend play, sensory play, purposeful play, interactive play, OT activities, and so much more! Exclamation point. Yes, that is all on the title. This was written by Judy Benz Duncan. This isn't a very deep book. That's what I'll say. This is a very general book. I think it's only an ebook. I rated this book a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And here's kind of my thoughts on it. So I believe it's only an ebook, not a real book, which caused some flaws in the way that it presented itself on Kindle. And that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was very jumpy and sporadic and weird. So be aware of that if you get it. But it's also a very easy read. I read it in 2 days. It's 90 something pages, I believe. So it was a super easy read, and here's what it's good for. It's good for 2 purposes. It's all about understanding occupational therapy and or sensory play, and it gives plenty of ideas. So it's good for one of 2 people. One, somebody who's brand new to sensory play or sensory input and needs to understand some basics. And 2, it's great for those of us who are aware of this topic, but maybe we just need a refresher, or we feel like we're getting stuck and can't think of ideas. Those are the 2 groups of people I would say this is great for. Honestly, anybody could get it because, like I said, it's a 2-day read, and it's something you'll pull out repeatedly or open up on your Kindle and you'll read it and figure out new activities to do. So here's the way it works. It breaks down all those things I explained, like manipulative play, block play, messy play, all those kind of things. It breaks down into those sections in the book, and each section starts with them explaining what that section of the book is and what its benefits are, which is why it's great for beginners. Beyond that, it just gives you a ton of activities to do surrounding that type of play so that you can easily put it together like a whole sensory play situation and present it to your child, and you would be aware of how it works thanks to the quick synopsis basically of that type of play and the activity that follows. So that's a really long way to just say it gives you a very basic understanding, and it gives you actual examples to put into work. Another great thing is that a lot of these examples are actually things that you could pull out in your own home, because most of these items we have on hand, or they're easily accessible to most people. Now, when it comes to sensory play, something that I try to be sensitive of is food scarcity, which is that some people can't do food-related sensory due to their economic situation. And in that case, I would want to say, don't use food as sensory play, use food as necessity for nourishment. So it's the only side note I would like to say. I probably need to say that more on my channel, but I would like to state that. Don't feel pressure to do food sensory play if you are facing food scarcity. Yes, once again, 4 out of 5 stars. I only gave it the 4 because the book was kind of all over the place, and if you get it, you'll understand what I'm saying. And it's written in a weird blue, and I thought the entire thing was a link for a minute, like it had underlines under it. Like how, you know, when you put a link online, it's like blue and underlined. But that's not the case. It's just blue with a lot of underlining. But yes, highly recommend that one. Go get it. You could pull it out daily and create activities in just 5 to 10 minutes, probably even less than 5. All right, on to the last book I read in January. There were 3 books total. All right, book number 3 was written by Brendan Kane, and it is called Hook Point: How to Stand Out in a 3-Second World. This book specifically, I gave 5 out of 5 stars on the Goodreads app. Here's the thing. When it comes to me, I'm a very information-driven person. You would more likely find me reading a book giving hard facts than fiction stories, which I know for a lot of people it's the opposite. But I just personally enjoy statistics. I enjoy stories that actually have to do with driving a result and those kind of things. It's harder for me to sit down and read a story about an imaginary person and try to be interested in their world, which is something I'm working on. Yeah, it's a really great book. And here's why. If you run a business, if you plan to run a business, if you use social media in any way for a business, if you do YouTube videos, whether that's a hobby you want to grow or a possible career you're trying to develop, whatever it is, if you have any intention to build or monetize any type of business or skill, whatever it may be, this book is a must read. Brendan Kane is actually an expert that's behind a lot of things and you wouldn't know it. So if you remember back when Facebook started adding those trailers and we were all sharing them, that was him. Or was it MySpace? I think it was even going back to MySpace days when that was shared. He had a lot to do with that. Taylor Swift's career, he did a lot to push her career as well. He was behind the Katie Couric interviews, and we all know that those were kind of really well-known interviews. He was behind that, and he helped drive results for her. So even beyond that, like, that's some of just his background to tell you like how for real this guy is about his subject. He is an expert at understanding pain points and how to sell whatever it is that you are trying to sell to them to address their pain points. But not only that, he knows how to skillfully get their attention very quickly. The book really goes around the idea of that you have 3 seconds to make an impression based on how social media works and studies done, basically, though it goes more in depth than that. But basically, he says you have 3 seconds to get someone's attention, and here's how you do it. So it's a really great book that will just teach you how to create a really good hook point to sell your product or to sell your brand or skill, whatever it may be, and to make it a profitable income. He also discusses how to upscale from there and to build on. So it's a really great book, a lot in it. I will say that if you're not used to reading this type of information, some points can get very dry. So that's just a warning for any of you that are really big fiction readers and aren't interested in a lot of nonfiction. This book could be a little dry for you, but the information is there and it's great, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, for anybody trying to monetize their skills, their brand, themselves, their products, whatever it may be. Right, those are the 3 books I read and how I felt about them. And also, I do want to talk about Goodreads, but I think that should be a separate video in and of itself. But I will say that Goodreads was introduced to me by someone I follow on Instagram. I'll leave all of her information down below for you guys. She's a wonderful person to follow for many reasons. And I always leave her Insta stories and her Instagrid feeling either very inspired or motivated, whatever it may be. She posts wonderful things, and she's just, I feel she's a light in the world on the Instagram circuit. But Goodreads is a great app where you can go to it, sign up, put your entire wish list of every book you want to read. It will help you keep track of what books you're reading and how close you are to getting them done. I believe you can set a goal for how many you want to read per year. It also gives great recommendations, and so it's very specific and catered to you. I think it's a really great app. I'm loving it. I'm on there every day updating my reading stats, and I recommend it for anybody. You can find me on there as Misty J, no underscore, just Misty J. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. In the comments down below, tell me all about the books that you've been reading and how it's going for you. What's your favorite read so far? Or how many do you plan to read? Just whatever you want to tell me about books down below, go ahead, and I'd love to talk to you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Have fun homeschooling. Bye.